usually tell this story out loud. Not because people wouldn't believe me, but because saying it feels like reminding something that I still exist. This happened when I was 18. At the time, I thought fear came from obvious things. Danger, violence, being chased. I didn't understand how quiet it could be, how patient. I was living near a rural forest park in Ireland. Back then, locals avoided it at night. But no one ever said why. They just say things like there's nothing for you there after dark, or the land isn't meant to be walked at night. I didn't take that seriously. I'd recently started dating a girl named Clara. We were both young, trying to impress each other. I suggested a late night walk through the forest, something different. She hesitated. I should have listened. We parked near the entrance just after 3 a.m. The moment the car doors closed, I noticed how quiet it was. No insects, no wind. Even our footsteps sounded wrong, too loud, like the sound didn't belong there. We stayed on the main trail at first. Everything looked normal, trees, dirt path, familiar shapes. But the deeper we went, the more it felt like the forest was thinning, not physically, just emotionally, like the place was losing its background noise. After about 15 minutes, I suggested we take a smaller trail that looped back. Clara stopped walking. She said she felt like we were being watched, not by someone, but by the place itself. I laughed. I wish I hadn't. Less than a minute later, we heard music. A flute. It wasn't distant. It wasn't echoing. It sounded close, too close to make sense. Clean, steady notes, not random, intentional. We froze. Music doesn't belong in a forest at that hour. There was no distortion, no mistake in the melody. Whoever was playing knew exactly what they were doing. The sound didn't come from one direction. It didn't move through the trees. It felt like it existed everywhere at once. Clara grabbed my arm and whispered that something was wrong. She said the music felt like it was pulling at her chest, like it was trying to remind her of something she'd forgotten. And the bushes ahead of us moved, not quickly, not violently. Something passed through them with weight. I never saw it. But I felt the air change, like pressure dropping. My body reacted before my thoughts did. Every instinct told me the same thing. This is not something you are supposed to see. The flute grew louder, not faster, closer, like it was walking. Claire started crying silently. She said she felt small, insignificant, like something ancient had become aware of her presence and was calmly deciding what to do. I grabbed her hand and ran. The music didn't chase us. It matched our pace perfectly. That was the worst part. When we reached the main trail, the flute stopped instantly. No fading, no final note, just gone. The silence afterward felt heavier than the sound ever did. We didn't speak until we were back in the car. I drove without thinking, too fast, until the forest was far behind us. Clara never came back to my place that night. Over the next few weeks, she changed. She became withdrawn. She said she kept hearing the music in her dreams, sometimes waking up mid-melody. Eventually, she told me she couldn't be near me anymore. She said whatever noticed us that night hadn't let go. Years passed. I moved, started a life, told myself it was stress, imagination, fear, feeding fear. I almost believed that. Until last week, I was lying in bed, unable to sleep, no noise outside, no distractions. And then I heard it. A flute. It's all familiar. Not outside, not in my ears, inside my head, the same melody. Slow, patient. And this time it felt pleased. That's when I understood something I hadn't before. Whatever we encountered in that forest never chased us, it never needed to. Because it wasn't hunting. It was choosing. And I think it finally remembered me. When this happened, I was 20 years old. I worked as a pharmacy technician at a hospital in Alabama, night shift 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. If you never worked nights in a hospital, let me explain something. Hospitals don't sleep, but they do change. After midnight, the fluorescent lights feel harsher, the hallways feel longer, every sound carries farther than it should. And when you're running on no sleep, your mind starts filling in the blanks. That week I'd barely rested. I'd picked up extra shifts, stayed up studying during the day. And by the time it happened, I'd been awake for almost 38 hours. I kept telling myself I was fine. I wasn't around 2:15 a.m. I was delivering medications to the 4th floor. It was mostly long-term patients, quiet wing, low activity. As I stepped off the elevator, I heard a door shut. But when I looked down the hallway, every patient room door was open. I stood there for a moment trying to figure out which one had moved. Then I told myself I was tired. I continued down the hall. Halfway through, I saw someone standing inside room 412, an elderly man in a hospital gown. He was facing the wall. His posture looked wrong. His arms were stiff at his sides. I assumed he was confused, maybe disoriented. It happens. I stepped inside. "Sir," I said gently. That's when his body started shaking, not mild trembling. His head snapped backward at an angle that didn't look physically possible. His jaw hung open, but no sound came out. His eyes, I don't like remembering his eyes. They were open too wide, not blinking. I rushed forward, instinct kicking in. I reached for the call button near the bed, and the second my hand touched it, everything stopped, silence. I blinked. The room was empty, the bed was made, tight corners, no patient, no sign anyone had been there. The monitor beside the bed was off, room 412 was unoccupied. I checked the chart outside the door, vacant. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was sleep deprivation, hallucinations are common after extended wakefulness. I even laughed quietly at myself in the hallway. But I couldn't shake one detail. I had felt the air move when his body convulsed. I had heard the mattress creak. That wasn't something your mind just invents. Around 3:30 a.m. I finished my rounds and headed back to the elevator. The doors open, and there he was. The same elderly man standing inside, except now he was wearing a security guard uniform, perfectly pressed, badge clipped to his chest. He looked healthy, alert. He smiled at me. Not friendly, just aware. I stepped back immediately. "I think you got the wrong floor," I said, forcing a laugh. He didn't answer. He just stared. The elevator doors slowly closed between us, and as they did, I noticed his hospital bracelet still on his wrist. Morning came, shift ended. I went home and slept for 12 hours straight. When I came back the next night, I asked one of the nurses about room 412. She looked confused. "That room's been empty for weeks," she said, then she hesitated. "Why?" I almost told her. Instead, I shrugged. She leaned closer. "You know, there used to be a patient there last year," she added. "Older guy, had seizures, died during one, no warning." My stomach dropped, heart stopped. She said quietly, "Security found him." I didn't ask any more questions. For the rest of the shift, nothing happened. No doors, no sounds, nothing. I started to convince myself it was all stress until the end of the night. Around 6:45 a.m., just before sunrise, I was in the pharmacy office finishing paperwork. There's a large window that looks across to another wing of the hospital, 4th floor level. I glanced up casually, and I saw him, standing behind the glass in a security uniform, looking directly at me, not smiling this time, just watching. I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. I blinked, he was still there. And someone walked past him in the hallway behind the glass and didn't react, didn't stop, like he wasn't there at all. I ran upstairs, heart pounding. The 4th floor was busy with morning staff, normal bright. I walked straight to room 412. It was open, empty. But something was different. There was a clipboard hanging beside the door. Not normally there. I picked it up. It was a maintenance log for security camera repairs, and at the top was nutrition. Automatically coverage on the fuck the pages. Every empty was bathed. Always sick of the ras paints, the ras cages, all the fade back to single mode pace of death. I'll never see you on 412. Sanding measures different hand. Why did my son a friendly mistake? Always in because you know the can security. For security over timber pissing, sucking about that brown bosom that peeked away. Stalling eggs, still passing for 1-2. Some turgid to walk by the doors crossed and a heap sucking the sign. My spirit next breather like it's waiting for someone that swears it's suck enough. I thought being alone would feel this loud. My boyfriend left for a work trip on a Thursday afternoon, just 3 nights. I'd stayed alone plenty of times before. So when he hugged me goodbye and joked, try not to burn the place down, I laughed it off. The house was quiet after he left. Not peaceful. Just empty. By midnight, I was on the couch watching TV, lights on in every room like I always do when I'm alone around 12:40 a.m. The doorbell rang. I froze. No one ever comes that late. I muted the TV and listened. Silence. Then the doorbell rang again, longer this time. I didn't move. I checked my phone. No messages, no calls. I stood up slowly and walked toward the front door, careful not to make noise. Through the peephole, I saw a man standing on the porch. Late 30s. Maybe hood up, hands in his pockets. I didn't open the door. Hello. He called out. His voice was calm, polite. I'm sorry to bother you so late. I stayed silent. I just need to use a phone. He continued. My car broke down. I saw your lights on. That made my stomach drop because he was right. Every light in the house was on. I know you're home, he added softly. I stepped back. My heart was pounding so hard I was afraid he could hear it. I'll call the police for you, I said through the door, my voice shaking. There was a pause. Then he laughed, a short, breathy laugh like I'd said something amusing. That won't be necessary, he said, just open the door. I didn't respond. After a few seconds, he sighed, all right, I understand. Footsteps. I waited until I was sure he was gone, then called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later, lights off, annoyed. They took my statement, knocked on a few nearby doors, found nothing. He probably moved on. One officer said, try to get some sleep. They left. I didn't sleep. At 3:17 a.m., something tapped against my bedroom window. Once, twice, then a knock. Gentle, deliberate. I didn't scream, I couldn't. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening as the tapping slowly moved downward toward the basement window. The next morning, I convinced myself it was paranoia until the next night. I went to a friend's party, stayed late, tried to forget everything. When I came home just after 1 a.m., the house felt different the moment I stepped inside. Colder. Still. The basement door was open, wide open. I never leave it open. I stood there, key still in my hand, listening. Click, click, click. A slow rhythmic sound from below, like someone tapping something hard against metal. I whispered hello. The clicking stopped. Silence. Then a voice drifted up the stairs, calm, familiar, soft. You're finally home. I ran, barefoot, phone in hand, straight out the front door and into my neighbor's house. I was screaming by the time they opened the door. The police came again. They searched the house, basement, closets, attic, nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no fingerprints, but one officer pulled me aside before they left. Ma'am, he said quietly, you might want to change your locks. Why, I asked. He hesitated. There's no sign of anyone breaking in, he said, which means whoever was inside had a key. My boyfriend came home the next day. I told him everything. He went pale because he hadn't told anyone he'd be out of town. No coworkers, no neighbors, no friends at night. As we lay in bed trying to sleep, his phone buzzed on no number. One message. She wasn't supposed to come back yet. The police never found him. We moved out 2 weeks later, but sometimes late at night when I'm alone in our new place, I hear a faint clicking sound and I wonder if he ever really left. Or if he's just waiting for me to come home again.